And today we're having Mom Talk with Amelia, and I'm just going to take a minute. We're going to talk about the struggles that moms deal with as being a mompreneur, trying to grow your business, maybe the business of your dreams, while also being present for your family and the struggles that come along with that, and sometimes a lot of mom guilt. So hi, Amelia.
Hi, Maureen. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. And so what I want you to do is just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your business and kind of where you're at right now with your business.
All right, thanks. Well, I should, I guess, maybe start by saying I had left a 9-to-5, quote unquote, career about 3 years ago and decided that being a business owner was where I wanted to head next. And I would say I'm still very much in that, proximal learning development stage of being a business owner and really, still trying out different processes and systems in order to find ways to make the business work. And the business I'm involved in is predominantly working with organizations in a consulting capacity, and then also working with individuals on coaching. Sometimes it's more life related, sometimes it's leadership related.
Okay, that's awesome. And so when you went from corporate 9-to-5 kind of world into the business side, what were the changes and the struggles that you saw as far as being there for your family and your kids?
So I think my first reflection would be that I thought, because I knew my stuff or my content, that I would just be able to start up a business and do that content without having to worry really too much about anything else. And I had no real understanding of all of the different processes that also needed to go into place. So I think, part of my reason for making the change was to be able to provide more time to be with my family.
Right.
But initially, and I would say probably for that first year at least, it was actually the opposite.
The opposite. Right. So you had that passion to start your business, but you weren't really sure about how to run the business and the back end of it. Yeah, I see that a lot. Yeah. So tell us about your kiddos. How old are they now?
So my daughter is 18 and she just started university, and it's been a back and forth year for her with COVID. So being able to be on campus and not being able to. So she's been in transition mode the entire year. And then my son is 16. Okay. So he's in grade 11 here, and again, hasn't had a full year of high school yet. That hasn't been in and out and in and out. So
which is a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
So yeah. And so I just want you to attest to this, that even though our children are teenagers, they still need us. Sometimes I feel like they need us even more than when they were babies and toddlers.
You know what? I was saying that to somebody a couple of weeks ago that, I didn't really take a whole lot of time, unfortunately, with maternity leave. But, but it's almost needed more at this stage.
Yeah. You need teenager leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly. Well, that's awesome. And so, what do you think you've been struggling with over the past 3 years? What do you think some of the top struggles as being a mompreneur have been with trying to balance work and home, and, trying to be present with your family, but also build this business?
So I think, entering into my 40s and starting this business, I was just kind of on the brink of beginning to really learn what setting boundaries were all about.
Right.
But because I didn't have, I guess, maybe the reference points to begin with, I didn't know what my boundaries should be in starting. Like, you hear people saying, well, you've got to work 24/7 to get it off the ground. You got to put your everything into it.
Right.
So I would say number one for me, first thing was identifying what those boundaries should or could be so that I could, disconnect and be mom while being able to get things off the ground. So that's definitely been, I think initially was the largest challenge.
Right.
And then I think too, just being able to, for me, not feel like there's too many, like have those strategies and business processes in place so that I could, I want to say regulate my day,
Right.
and allow for, to have that extra time, especially in the evenings with my children, because I was finding I just wasn't disconnecting.
Right.
I wasn't able to stay away from that. So that's been a challenge. And I think too, just, getting too many things on the go at one time, it's like, if I pick this ball up, what can I let go of? So
Right.
it's been, I'm working at home. There's still sometimes, an understanding if they've been home learning from school that I'm more available to help. So the boundaries are hard too, when it's like, I'm here, but I really need to work and you need to do your school. But
Right. So boundaries on both sides there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, just, I mean, you use that term balance, but being able to find, okay, like that balance of at 5 o'clock, I am going to turn off. I'm going to set those 3 hours aside to be mom now for the evening, and I'm not going to go back to it until.
Yeah. So was there something that you did in your business, or, some point where you came to that you realized what it was that you needed to do to be able to do that, to be able to, shut it off and be present with your family?
It was becoming just feeling burnt out, like exhausted, truly. That, I'm like, this is not a sustainable way to be able to operate. And I was really, I think, pretty hard on myself about, here I made this change in order to do something, to be able to be present, and it actually had the opposite.
Right. I've gone through that as well.
So getting support, learning, maybe I should have identified in the question before, learning to be okay to ask for help.
Yeah. No,
Was
I
the
love
big,
that.
accepting that I couldn't do all of it
Right.
without the help. So having someone like you and others to support those day-to-day operations made a remarkable shift in being able to just focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have to be okay with asking for help. And the boundaries is huge. And like we said, I have struggled with the boundaries as well. And I think my side of that was that the kids were home for so long during COVID and everything. And then I think there's a whole mentality that when you work from home, you don't work. Sometimes I just get that feeling from people, it's like, until you set those boundaries and you're like, no, I'm working, that it doesn't really click with them. But also setting those boundaries for our kids and our family to understand, like, this is my working time. I know I'm right in my office, but there's an emergency, I'm available, but I'm not readily available for everything until this time, or when the office door is open. So I think boundaries is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even the dog has had to learn that. No, when the door's closed,
right?
I'm at work.
Definitely. I've struggled with that this year with a new puppy. So she's still learning that. But so what about actual, like, mom guilt? Like, do you feel actual guilt over trying to, like, number one, actually build a business, do something for yourself, taking the time away from them when you feel like they need you and things like that. So can you tell me just a little bit about that?
Yeah, I honestly thought maybe at some point as the children grew older that guilt of not, being there all the time would maybe decrease a little bit.
Right.
But as you mentioned at the beginning, I think it's actually worsened. It just they're dealing with larger issues, larger things.
Yes.
Even I want to say, like, for their mental health in the last 2 years through all of this, they needed significant support. So the guilt, I would say, through, the pandemic, especially, and then trying to tend to the business in addition
Right.
to it has, been quite remarkable. Like, I've said to them, I think a few times, like, I've never been a parent in something like this. I'm trying, and I don't know how to keep up with work and keep up with your needs
Yeah.
and help you with, at home with their schooling. Because again, they're independent, but they still
Yeah.
are, self-taught.
Right. Yeah. Especially when they're at home doing virtual school at, whether it's all year or at different points, it's a lot for them to deal with. And so I think that kind of increases our mom guilt a little bit.
Yes. And I do see my daughter in her trying to now like do, meet all of these achievements and that in her schooling. Like,
Right.
Okay, I'm trying to model for you. We need to still like
Right.
make that time for you, put yourself first.
Yes.
So seeing some of what I've done reflected in my
Mm-hmm.
children too makes the guilt a little bit more like, no, don't do what I did.
Right.
What I did. Cut it off. Go for a walk.
Right.
Do what you need to do for yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. I think because they definitely learn from us our mistakes and vice versa. So but I have no doubt that you're a wonderful role model for them. So
Like,
you know what? We want them to learn from our mistakes because that's just going to make them, better, understandable. And and you know what? It never hurts to apologize and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, but this is real and we're doing the best we can. So, well, tell me, I want to know if you have any mom tips for helping to kind of overcome that. But then I also want to know, as from your coaching aspect and your professional life, do you have what kind of tips would you give us for that?
Okay. Yeah, and I
know you probably are like everyone else, and we don't always take our own advice, right?
Yeah. Okay, so two big questions there. I'm trying to think. In terms of tips, I think I pull the skills and the strategies and the way in which I operate and the positives that come from that, and also see those in my children, and that relieves some guilt, like to see that they are dedicated to something when they start, that they do have great task initiation, they're working with people and they're kind with other people. Like, so the modeling of a lot of what I'm doing in my work,
right,
I see reflected in them, so that helps. So I think maybe just keeping or being mindful that a lot of the skills they're observing in us working hard are also phenomenal for them.
Right. They're picking that up. Yeah.
Yes. My gratitude journal, while it's not necessarily related to guilt or even my business, keeps me grounded. It keeps me seeing the positive in a very realistic way, like not a toxic positivity, but a grounded way of like, okay, here's what goodness came out of today.
Right.
That also helps, to relieve some of that guilt. And then again, as we mentioned before, being very clear on the boundaries. Like, I'm working today until 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, I'm available.
Right.
And also then, making sure those boundaries are established within the business too, so that
definitely
that I'm agreeing to, I'm keeping my word to be with them, and they also then respect when I've got to be at work. Like,
right. Yeah. And your clients also respect that too. When you set those boundaries with them, they know what to expect. And so I think that's kind of a three-way.
And things I never thought of before too. Like, I used to, I wouldn't think anything of emailing somebody at 7 o'clock at night or when it came to mind. And now I'm like, no, that's just, I'm inviting somebody to have to do, to break their boundaries or their personal time. Like, I think you can set your own tone that way too by.
Definitely. Yeah. Even if you say to yourself, I'm just going to do this one time, but we're kind of expecting it from them. as well. And so, yeah, we don't want to portray that.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
hopefully that helps
Right.
other people on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'll hear from my kids sometimes if I do get a email or a text or something after hours or on the weekend, and I do happen to kind of be looking, they're like, Mom,
Yeah,
why are you working? Yeah.
exactly.
So definitely.
Exactly. So that helps. And
Well,
then your second part of your question, Maureen, I'm sorry,
yeah.
you mentioned, what was that?
Oh,
Can you repeat?
as a coach, do you have any professional tips for us that you might give some of your clients that might be dealing with, uh, the struggle of building their business and balancing their family?
It manifests as simply, and I know for a long time to me it just seemed like words, but it is that being okay to be selfish. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have to put you first. And for
Wow.
moms, I know
Yeah.
that is a real struggle. It's really hard, but
Yes.
again, it goes back to like I can't teach my daughter to be in a healthy relationship with somebody else if
Right.
I'm not looking after myself before trying to do the same. So
Right.
really that it's okay for me to go for a walk because
Yeah.
I'm showing my children that they need to take that break
Yeah.
too for their mental health in between their studies. So the you first mentality definitely is something I work with a lot with, clients, even if, it's the CEO of an organization,
Mhm.
your staff needs to see
Right.
you being, you know, being the person looking after yourself
Right.
if they're going to build trust with you. So I think
Yeah.
that self-care piece would be number one. And
Right.
yeah, continuing the boundary setting
Yeah.
being another thing that I quite often work with clients on, whether it be
Right.
employee relation or personal relationship, but
Hmm.
staying true to those. And
Yeah.
um, thirdly, it would be that everything that I do within a day is somehow aligned to the values that I live by.
Yes.
So if it's not feel like it's not working for my values, it's not working for me, and it likely won't work for anyone around me because on some level it'll impact us. So
Yes.
that would be kind of the
Yeah, and I think
getting
that's
really
very
clear.
important. And actually, I learned that from you a few years ago. I
Oh,
never really took those values, my core values, into my whole life. I was like, these are my core values, my family and my friends, but not in my business. So I was, and when you finally bring that over, um, that's a huge shift.
yeah. Yeah, and when we talk about balance, even that becomes
Yeah,
something that helps to balance
definitely.
us, that we don't have to be a different person in our work than we are in our home life. Like
Yes.
that we see that alignment across them is huge.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah.
I am so excited that I got to talk with you today.
Oh, I'm so honored.
I really,
Much
really appreciate
appreciated.
your time and telling us a little bit about your story,
Okay.
with being a mom and building your business. I'm just so grateful for you.
No, and right back at you.
Thank
I
you.
feel the same, and I'm honored to have
Yes.
been.
Well,
Thank you
thank you
so much.
so much. I really appreciate you, Amelia, and thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.